Hello everyone. So welcome back. So today we are going working with states and multiple ways of states. And this real-time example is going to be really helpful for you if you need to understand React so quickly. So guys, let's get started and start developing the states on this real-time application. So in the previous video, we all know we have created this form, and once we click here, we actually make changes to this y- input fields, and on change event hits, and it allow us to get data from event target dot value, right? So we all know how we are doing this, but now this is all you can say not going to update the component UI changes, right? Because we know that React do not work in this way. We need to re-execute the component. So for that, we already discussed in our previous videos. You can see in the previous video, I have in detail, I have explained the use state. So now you need to use the use states to re-execute the component so that the UI changes get reflected. So guys, let's get started and start doing the code. So till now, we have added this events and form. Now I'm going to add the use states, and for that I will write use state, and by default it is added here. We do not need, in the old React we need to add this library React here, but now we do not. It in the new React it is added by default. So use state value by default is empty, and I need to save value somewhere in the const, and I already explained why we are saving in the const and what this useState function is returning to us, right? So I will say std code, student code, and set std code, right? So this is equal to doesn't mean that we are assigning the value to it. You can watch my previous video and you will understand that what is actually happening here. So guys, I've created this useState and I'm going to store this code here now. So for storing this value, I will pass here set std code, and in that I will write event.target.value. So this is a good way of doing this thing. So now if I go here, so data is stored in our states, right? So I need to do this for every event handler. I will pass here. I need to create four. So I will say std name and set, and I want to remove this, right? And then I will say std h dh. Then I will say std email, right? Email, and then I'll say okay. These are the four use states we have created, right? So now I'm going to write for everyone set name, and I will say set age, cool, and then last one email, set email. So we have stored these values in our use state. So now if this form is going to be re-executed, or if this form is going to update this uh, use state value, this form is going to be rendered again, right? So when it's get re-executed, we are going to make changes on the UI. Otherwise, we could not make changes, right? So this is understandable thing. We have already discussed this thing in the previous lectures. But now I also said there are several ways of managing this use states. I have discuss the one way of doing this. But now you can see here we have four fields, and these fields are going to be one object, right? So just for a while, guys, why don't we make one single object for all these four fields like this? Const, I'm going to say student data, student record, or student record, student new data, something like this. And then I'm going to say set, and with a set like this. set student new data. So here I need to pass useState, but this time I'm not going to pass the strings. This time I'm going to pass the object, right? So in the object, we can pass the multiple fields like std code, and the by default its value is empty. And then I'm going to pass std name. By default, its value is empty. And then I'm going to pass std age, and by default, its value is going to be empty. And then I will say std email. By default, its value is going to be empty, right? So this is also a way of doing this thing. I'm going to comment this, and I'm going to comment this as well as I do not need this. All right. So now we have this object and we need to manage through this object. So the second way of doing this is, so now if I make some changes in on our code here, let's suppose I write 1, 2, 3, and what will happen on the back end, set student new data, and here we need to pass which field we need to update. Like I will say code, and now I will say event dot target dot value, right? But what will happen? It is going to change the whole object values. So we also need to handle these three fields. Otherwise, these fields are going to be changed by default because we have not passed this field in this object. So it's a little bit trick here. React.js says you need to pass the separate operator. We have discussed this topic in ES6 topics. You can watch those videos and you can understand. So you need to pass three dots here, and now you need to pass the name of the state. So name of the state is, yes, name of the state is student new data. So if you pass comma, then what will happen, what the compiler will do, or when this code executes, it will save the object state, previous state, and it is going to only update the new value to this std code here. Not the whole object is going to be updated. This only this field is going to be updated. It is going to pass the latest value to this field, and this object is going to be updated because this triple dot separate operator say we need to save the previous value of the state in what state this state is actually is. But guys, this is the, let me just write it. This is the first one way of doing this. First, this is a second way of doing this, right? But we have one more way, very interesting. That way is also very unique, and that is also, I will suggest for the big projects, if you have the huge amount of states on your project, I will recommend you to use the third approach. The third approach will say you need to write set user, I will say set student data, and then you will say previous state. First, you need to pass the predicate of the function here. You will say function, and then you need to pass this. So in this, you will say the previous state, and here you need to say return triple dot this op- separator here, and then you need to say previous state, and then I'm going to say std code, and that same thing event dot target dot value. So this is the third way of doing this thing. But now you will say it looks similar to this one, second one. No, this is not similar. Actually, what happened on the back end when you manage the states, we have seen in the previous video, React do not directly update the states, right? Actually, React, this is a very important thing. Just focus on this thing. React actually schedule the state updates, right? It doesn't perform them instantly to update the state. So let's assume I change the state, and if I have any code here, if I'm doing console dot this thing and passing the state here, it is not going to show me the new state value. React actually schedule the states. So once if we have a lot of state, then we need to use this third approach. In this way, React guarantee it will safely update the latest state snapshot, right? But if you are going to use the first and the second way, if you have a lot of states on on your component, then sometime it actually um, eh, updates the incorrect data or it updates the incorrect snapshot. So React actually recommended to use a third way, which is very helpful for all of you. So even I will also recommend, but in this project, I'm just showing you the real world, real-time example. So I'm not going to use this in detail. We can use the first one right now. We just need to understand the concepts, but it is not also very complicated or very difficult to understand it. You can easily write the code in this third one as well as, right? If you are familiar with a little bit of JavaScript. So now I updated this, so I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to update this. This is how we are working with the multiple states in React, and it is going to be really fun and really easy to manage all this multiple states, right, guys? So till now we have covered this create new component, and then we have add the event to that component, and then we have working with the multiple ways of managing the state on our project, right? So I hope you like the video, you understand the concept of the states and how we can work with the multiple states on our project. In the next video, I'm going to share how we can do the two-way of binding, and then how we can pass data from child to parent components. We all know from how we can pass data from parent to child, but now we are going to learn the new thing in React.js. So thank you very much, guys. Hope you like the video, and I will come with the third part of this real-time example of use states. Thank you. Have a good day. And don't forget to subscribe and like my channel.